As we read stories, one of the things that we want to always look for are the story elements. There are four story elements: characters, setting, problem, and solution. As we read, if we can figure out those four story elements, we have a good idea of what's happening in the story. And if anybody ever asks us to tell about the story, we'll be able to tell them what the story was all about. Let's take the first story element: characters. Characters are the people or animals you meet in a story. In a familiar story, The Little Red Hen, the main character would be the little red hen. Other characters in the story that we might want to mention would include a cat, a dog, and a duck. Characters help us keep in mind who is involved in the story, so we remember all the characters as the action takes place. The next story element is setting. Setting tells when or where the story takes place. In the case of the little red hen, I remember that they were harvesting wheat, so I would say the setting is in the fall. Most of the story took place outside, and I would say that most of it was around Little Red Hen's house. So the setting helps us keep in mind, where is the story taking place. Now that we know the characters and the setting, we can really get involved in the action of the story. And in most fiction stories, the main character is going to run into some kind of a problem. Something happens that they need to fix. They need to figure out, what should I do in this situation? In the case of Little Red Hen, she keeps asking all of her friends to help her with different jobs, from cutting wheat to taking wheat to the mill to helping her bake bread. And all of her friends say, "No, we don't have time to help you do any of those things." So we figure out that the cat, the dog, and the duck don't have time to help Little Red Hen. So her problem is, how is she going to get this bread made when no one will help her? As stories move on, usually the main character does find a solution to their problem. In this case, the little red hen says, I guess if none of you are going to help me, I will cut the wheat by myself. I will take the wheat to the mill by myself, and I will bake the bread by myself." So she solves the problem by doing everything all by herself. At the end, however, when Little Red Hen says, "Oh, who would like to help me eat this delicious bread?" All of the animals, the cat, the dog, and the duck say, "Oh, I would love to." And at that point, Little Red Hen says, "Oh no, if you don't help make the bread, you also don't get to enjoy eating the bread." So once we figured out the problem and the solution, you can also often figure out, what's the big idea or lesson in this story? In the case of the little red hen, the lesson or the big idea is, we really need to work as a team, and we all need to put in some of the work, some of the things that aren't so much fun, in order to get that reward at the end, tasting that wonderful bread. So working together and participating in all the steps, even if they're not fun, in order to get that reward of the bread. So as you read stories, I want you to keep in mind the characters, setting, problem, and solution, so that you'll be able to do a really nice job of retelling stories. Please do that as you concentrate on your books today.